Going on, YouTube? RDAP Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful Tuesday. And we'll give you guys a few minutes to join us as this video is live as normal. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the college admissions scandal and how individuals can properly prepare in order to do things like possibly avoid going to federal prison. And we decided to do this topic on the college the admissions scandal for the simple fact that this doesn't just apply to individuals that are extremely wealthy or maybe celebrity status. This application applies to anybody that might be going through a possible federal indictment, whether you're under investigation, whether you've been indicted already. The situation is almost exactly the same for anybody that is a first-time non-violent offender, whether white-collar individual or a blue-collar individual. If it's your first time facing this situation, this video is definitely for you. Hope you guys, what's going on, Dan? I got to use my phone today to see the chat. For some reason, I couldn't get it to come up on my computer while I was watching the OBS screen. So we got Dan in the room. What's going on? What's up, Jess? Welcome. It's always nice to have the amazing and beautiful Jessica Kent. Daniel, you're pretty studly looking too, so welcome, welcome. But yeah, we're going to give you guys a peace out to Aunt Becky. Yes, peace out to Aunt Becky, unfortunately. You know, and we're going to talk a little bit about that because, you know, there is, I'm sure, a whole lot more to this situation than what we all know. I know my own situation. Most of the clients that we deal with, most of the phone calls that we deal with, there's always two sides, three sides, right? There's their side, what they say happened, what the government is saying what happened, and somewhere in the middle, the reality of what happened. So we're going to talk about how individuals in a situation like this can really put themselves in the best possible situation to avoid a lengthy prison sentence and maybe avoid a prison sentence altogether. And we all know that, you know, having financial assets can increase your odds. But at the same time, in a situation like this, this can also really hurt somebody's odds because their money is what got them into this problem. You know, trying to get your children into schools that they don't qualify for, having them with whether they don't have the academics or putting them into sports that they're not actually even going to be in. But that's not what this video is about because we're not here to judge. It's easy to throw stones. We see all of these celebrities on TV. We love watching them on TV, but the minute they get in trouble, we want to be the first one to say almost like, good, I'm glad you got yours. You know, they're human beings. They make mistakes too. So we don't want to judge because we didn't want to be judged when we were going through our situation. However, what applies to them also applies to many of you that are going through this for the very first time. Tasmarian, what's going on, my man? Another awesome client in the room. I'm actually going to be leaving Thursday, first thing Thursday morning. I got to be to the airport at, I believe, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to Indianapolis for a wedding. I'm also getting to meet an awesome client who just received his sentence today. He had a very favorable sentence compared to what he was originally looking at. So I'm going to go have either breakfast or lunch with him on Friday, a neurosurgeon. So it's going to be a good week, guys. I'm looking forward to going to my best friend's wedding. I'm not looking forward to giving a speech. I'm the best man at the wedding, which means I have had to prepare a speech, which is never fun. That's why I like doing YouTube Live. You can just get on here and go. I get wanting your kids to have everything, but that does more harm to them. Yeah, Jess, I agree with you. You know, there's all kinds of avenues and directions and views that people can really put their 2 cents in on this. And I think what's really important here is now they're into the situation. They've made the mistake. What do they do now? So with that said, let's kind of jump into these topics here, guys. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to this channel. This channel has been growing. It's growing at a slower pace than I would like, but I do understand that the content that we produce is not for everybody. But also make sure you text the word YouTube to 76626. That'll put you on our notification text message list. That will bring you updates of when we're getting ready to go live, other video content, stuff like that. Just put you on our to know list. So you just got indicted. You're facing possible federal prison sentence. You're lawyered up. You don't know what to do. anticipation, anxiety, sleepless nights. What is the first single thing that, knowing what I know now, the number one tidbit of advice I would give somebody that's in this situation, whether you're making millions or you're making hundreds of thousands or you're making tens of $1,000s a year? The advice out of the gate would be exactly the same. The first thing to do is, if you did this, now if you're completely innocent and you're being wrongfully accused of something that you did not do, then fight it. Fight it, fight it, fight it, fight it. I'm going through a situation like that right now where I've been accused of something that I did not do, and I am fighting it to the T. It's not criminal, it's civil. So don't worry. RDAP Dan's not under any kind of a federal criminal indictment. I am being civilly bothered, and it's not really too big of a deal, at least not to me, because I know I didn't do it, so I'm going to fight it. I'm not going to roll over. But we'll talk about that once it's all said and done. So first thing you can do is you got to own it, guys. You got to own up and admit what you did. Especially in a situation like this, where we're talking about, the college admission scandal. In a situation like this, these parents, you got to remember, these parents didn't just call the school and say, here's money. When parents are trying to get their children into these elite Ivy League type schools, they know there's going to be tons of hoops, tons of red flags, things that they don't know. So they don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to get denied due to a technicality. And because they don't know how to navigate this, just like anything else, they hire a consultant. The problem is there's consultants in that industry where there only used to be a few. Now there's more consultants than you can shake a stick at. And one of the main gentlemen involved is a guy by the name of William Rick Singer. And I forgot the name of his consultancy, his agency. I don't remember the name of it, but he's pretty much a college consultant. So what he does is, when wealthy parents, whether they're famous, rich, whatever it is, they'll hire these consultants that are going to range anywhere from tens of thousands. In some ranges, it could be up into the millions. You just don't know what it's going to cost. And the point of these consultants is to help you navigate, to make sure that you're doing everything within your power to increase the opportunity of the success of your child being entered into one of these schools that you're applying at, whether it's based on academics or any type of sports scholarship. These consultant agents are supposed to prepare you properly. And what's happened, what it seems like has happened, is the main guy that got busted, William Rick Singer, and this whole thing got blown out of water by accident. William Rick Singer was giving people information as to what they could do, basically taking money, buying off coaches, academic leaders within the school, lining their pockets to get students into something that they do not typically qualify for. Some of the allegations are even, they've gone as far as saying that some of these students' faces have been photoshopped onto other athletes so they can use the pictures and show what their kids are doing, and it wasn't even really their kids. I can tell you that from what I know and from what I understand, we did receive an email from an attorney who claims to be representing one of the defendants, that is and the questions were basically, what is some advice that you would give a client in this situation? You got to remember, a lot of people right now are they don't know what to think. This is way beyond anything they've ever dealt with. They probably think they can throw money at this. They're going to fight it. A lot of them are probably still in denial. They don't think that they did anything wrong. They were advised by the consultant that they hired to make a lot of these choices. And all of that may be true. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen is, the best thing is if the individuals that are involved, the parents, the students, the coaches, the educators, if they can look at what role they did play and identify what it is that they did wrong and take full accountability out of the gate and go into a level of cooperation to give up the information that you know on yourself. I don't know if you have information about other individuals, but we know that the main consultant that most of the individuals had hired that really started this whole thing, William Rick Singer, we know that he's cooperating to the fullest. And they're going to go so far back. There could be additional indictments, additional charges that could come down from this. This thing is probably far from over. And right now, because these people are so wealthy, attorneys are coming out of the woodwork, consultants are coming out of the woodwork, and you're going to see some exorbitant fees being thrown at these people to help them. And the reality is the same thing that Lori Loughlin, Becky from Full House, just like her, there's no difference between what she's dealing with right now and your average middle class, anywhere from $60,000 up to several $100,000 a year. What she's facing is the same thing that somebody else would be facing, is the same thing that I was facing. You know, everybody thinks white-collar individuals, white-collar criminals go to these special white-collar prisons. No, your prison destination and custody level is based on the crime that you committed and your past prior offenses. If you committed a non-violent crime, you're looking at the same type of a situation as anybody else would look, considering, including myself. So when you start separating that and you start putting all of this emphasis on there's such a big difference between a white-collar offender and your everyday average nonviolent offender, what it is you're creating the reason why you're going to charge them more money. And the problem is people that are in this situation, the actual individuals that are facing the possible prison sentence, they're also of that same set of mind where, well, they automatically attract themselves to people that look and sound and act like them. And that may not be the best situation for yourself. You got to remember, at the end of the day, do you want somebody that relates to you, or do you want somebody that can relate to what the judge is going to be looking for and what the judge is going to want to see from you? The problem is a lot of these federal judges are not making anywhere near the type of money that some of these high-end celebrity profile cases are making. So now you've got this, ridiculously overpriced legal team. Some of these people are going to go spend anywhere from $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 on prison consulting groups. We've already seen some of these prison consulting groups showing up in the press on, Washington Post and CNN, almost to the point where they're using it as like a sales pitch to attract white-collar individuals that are involved in this. And there's a lot of white-collar individuals that are going to fall for it and think, this guy looks and sounds like me, this is who I should hire. And the fact that it's being publicized through the media right now, I can't imagine that would be looking good. The option that you really want to focus on is you want to be objective about this and think to yourself, if you're an attorney that's watching this right now, the things that you want to be able to do for your client is create an opportunity where you're going to be able to put them in that best possible position to have the best possible outcome, and realizing that just throwing money at this is not going to be the result that's going to get you there. The same amount of work that you should do for somebody that's making millions of dollars a year is the same amount of work that you should be doing for somebody that's making $30,000 to $60,000 a year. If you are a prison consultant or claiming to be a consultant that is going to help somebody reduce their sentence, there's only so many things that can actually be done. We've already seen consulting groups like RDAP Law Consultants who were indicted this past January for trying to find, they basically weren't offering any valid services at all. So instead, what they did is they created this illusion of promising somebody, we're going to get you an RDAP or your money back. We just spoke to a lady, not yesterday, it was Sunday. We received a call on Sunday from a lady that just got out of prison, and she's trying to get a hold of RDAP Law Consultants because she didn't get into RDAP. She had no idea they had been indicted, and she paid them $27,000 for the promise that she was going to get into RDAP, which of course never happened. The reason why it didn't happen is she did not have substance abuse in her pre-sentence report or in her history. A lot of individuals that do not have substance abuse, they had no drinking problems, they weren't using marijuana, there was no prescription pills, nothing in their history. They hear these things once they get indicted and they're like, oh, I found out I can get a year off of my sentence. So they're like, well, what if I just say I have a drug problem? There's prison consultants out there that will actually tell you to create falsified documentation stating that you had a problem. RDAP Law Consultants was literally telling people to take very specific drugs to appear to be having withdrawals, show up to the prison drunk. We also just spoke to another client. Her husband called us. His wife called us. Her husband is in a prison camp right now and was sent to solitary confinement for showing up to prison drunk. And now he's going to be transferred from a camp to a low because they're afraid if he has these substance abuse issues and he came in drunk, that if he can't get his alcohol when he's in prison, he might walk off of the prison to go to a bar or to go purchase alcohol. So now because of that fear, they upped his custody level. And this was at the hands of RDAP Law Consultant. This is what they told the client to do. Now, granted, the client should have known better. And it's unfortunate the client took some really, really poor advice. And that's just it, guys. We all want to believe what we want to hear. If it sounds really, really good, we want to gravitate to that because it sounds good. But you got to be objective. You got to take a step back. You got to ask yourself, is this actually going to put me into a better situation? So now on the flip side, there's consultants out there that claim to be catering to these white collar individuals. And the price tag that's related to that, to me, it's so unfair to create that type of an illusion because you're not doing anything for them that you wouldn't be doing for somebody that makes a fraction of that penny. But the difference is you know they can pay way more than any other individual. You know you can ask them for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 and it's not an issue to pay that. The problem is there's so many people out there that exactly need the same service, and by making it almost impossible for anybody else, the average person is not going to be able to spend $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. And if they are, they're going to be beg, borrow, and stealing unless they've got a little savings account. A lot of times the feds have come in, they've cleaned out your accounts, there's nothing left. That's why you hear a lot of these wealthy individuals that aren't able to hire attorneys. They have to have federally appointed attorneys because their finances have been wiped out. So when you are catering to a specific target audience and you're using almost a ploy or a sales tactic to get these clients, at some point I feel like this is all going to come tumbling down, and it's really not good for the industry. We should be here to help people. If you went to prison and you know what it's like and you've learned your lesson and now you want to take your lesson and turn it into a business model to help other individuals, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not doing it for the right reasons and you're purely doing it because you still want to be able to compete with whatever industry you're in before, you still want to be able to make millions of dollars a year by overcharging people, to me, you didn't really learn a lesson if that's your only go, is how do I become a millionaire all over again? It doesn't work that way, at least not in my opinion. And this is why I feel like we've had such clashing with other consultants, is because we talk about this and we really kind of break it down and show you that the service that somebody needs isn't based on their financial class. It's based on the crime that they did and the fact that they're terrified of where they're getting ready to go. If you're getting ready to go to prison and you don't know what to do, the basics are, first off, you need to take accountability right away. If you did what they said you did, and you're indicted by the federal government, there's a good chance that you are not walking away from this scot-free. Now, probation is always a possibility for a lot of individuals. It's normally not likely. There's always the off chance that the case will get dismissed, even the off chance that maybe you can pay enough restitution, enough fines, and show enough cause that you didn't have enough wherewithal. But in a situation like this that's making such headline news, it's fair to say that a lot of these people are going to be paying some hefty fines, probably going to be looking at some prison time, and if not prison time, a very good chance of looking at some federal probation. But there is going to be consequences for these actions. Just because you trusted a consultant that was telling you they're going to help you get your child into a school that your child typically otherwise would not have qualified for, at some point, you as the parent turned a blind eye, and you were so used to kind of getting things that you've always wanted to get in the past that this fell into that same type of line of fire, to where you allowed yourself to make a very poor judgment call. And I understand a lot of people really did rationalize thinking they're doing this for their children. And you see situations like Lori Loughlin's daughter, what is her name? Olivia Jade. We saw the interviews where she was saying, I want to go to the parties, I want the college experience, but I really don't care about school. Everybody's giving this girl so much grief. This is a kid, guys. What kid do you know that actually wants to go to college beyond some of the benefits and the pleasures that college has to offer? She didn't say anything different than what your typical student would say. They just used it to exploit and really kind of put her in a very negative light because of the situation where they're showing rich people, once again, getting over white privilege. And when you really look at this whole white privilege thing, it is a real issue in this country. White privilege is very, very real. And now you have all of these individuals that abused this privilege, where we're probably going to see more and more schools that are going to come under fire from this. Ben Stiller made a hilarious joke. I don't know if you guys watch. I saw the clip of it. It was on like Ellen or something. And, Ben Stiller is talking about how he's getting ready to go out this weekend and take his daughter college shopping, making jokes, saying he's going to try to get her into where she's going to get a scholarship for football, clearly making jokes about this whole thing. But it's a real serious situation. When you look at the white privilege aspect of it, typically it's mostly a lot of white parents, white kids, that at least that's being publicized, what you're seeing the targets as this of. Now we're seeing individuals that are claiming to be able to help these people, and they're asserting almost the white privilege as well, as stating that they relate, they can talk their talk, they play golf at the same country clubs. I mean, it's so ridiculous that it's very, very saddening to watch, because all the rest of you that don't make this type of money, that have the same thoughts of committing suicide and going on the run because you don't understand where you're going to go. I was in that very situation, guys. I was originally facing 20 plus years for my role. I worked for a doctor that was overprescribing pain medication. And when the indictment came down, it was a 52 count indictment. In 2011 is when it all started. I was dead against taking a plea because I knew early on from the DEA agent, and my attorney told me that if I took a plea, there's a very good chance I was going to go to prison. Now, it wouldn't have been for the 20 years. They were going to put a cap on it of 60 months, but never really understanding how this works, and my unrealistic fear of prison, but so much fear in my mind, and I couldn't rest that the thought of prison stopped me from doing anything that made sense. So I refused to take a plea. I was fighting my case from 2011 until 2014. I didn't take my plea until 2014. Thinking about going to prison, the thought of suicide entered my mind on many of occasions. When I did reach out to some of these prison consultants, and I'm not going to say names, but I did reach out to several prison consultants, and when I didn't have the $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 that they were quoting, I mean, that call was abruptly over. The call had ended on the spot. Basically, I was told by RDAP law consultants, they are one of the ones that I spoke to, I was told by them that if I didn't hire somebody like them, that I would never get into RDAP. I would never make it to a camp or a low security prison. There's a good chance that because of my cooperation that I would be, beat up and extorted in prison. They really made me think I was going to go to this high security prison. So much to the point of if I did have the money or I could have borrowed the money, I would have paid them in a heartbeat and I would have been taken advantage of and nothing would have happened. Now, not all prison consultants exploit to that measure. There's a lot of prison consultants out there that do really, really good work. You've heard of them. You guys have seen, Michael Santos, Boyce, I can't remember his first name, RDAP.com does an amazing job. You guys have Justin Perperny, White Collar Advice. These guys all do good work. And Patrick Boyce from RDAP.com, he's probably the only one that I would say is fairly priced to where regardless of your financial status, you can get the help that you deserve. I shouldn't say the help that you need, but the help that you deserve. Prison consultants should not be charging tens of thousands of dollars to educate somebody on what they can do to prepare to shorten their sentence. Really, once it comes down to getting somebody to take ownership, take accountability of what they did early on, that is really going to demonstrate your level of acceptance of responsibility to a judge. Now, taking your plea is only a part of it. Really, the whole objective, when somebody hires us and they say, what are you going to do for us? The objective is to get you to illustrate yourself beyond what the average person in your same situation is going through or what it looks like for them, the picture that they're painting. The problem is white-collar individuals and most nonviolent first-time offenders in general, whether it's a nonviolent drug crime or a large high-end money crime, what happens is we go through these self-defeating thoughts and we start telling ourselves things like, because it sounds good, we'll start telling ourselves things like, The judge is going to see I'm a really good guy. The prosecutor is going to see I'm a good guy. They're going to see I have a family. They're going to see I go to church on a regular basis. They're going to believe me when I tell them I'm sorry. Because most of us that go through this for the first time, the whole pretrial prison experience, from the moment you fall under indictment or under federal investigation to the point where you go to sentencing, that really is the beginning of your prison sentence. For me, my prison sentence didn't start until 2014, but when I became under federal investigation in 2011, that's when my life felt like it was over and I felt like there's nothing I could do, and it just felt like this funnel sucking me down. Jared Mendez, appreciate it, my man. Jared Mendez just sent a $2 donation. Very awesome. Guys, I apologize if I'm missing some of the comments here. Feel free to re-ask them. Thank you, Jessica. Jessica said I'm going to do great with the speech. I hope so, guys. And it's going to be recorded, so we'll upload it after the fact. So your situation of getting ready to go to prison is not just the fact that you're going to go to prison. How do you talk to your children? How do you really create yourself in a different light from the person standing right next to you? So that's where I was kind of going with this before I saw the little donation come through. Appreciate the donation, by the way. Is don't compare yourself to... Don't allow yourself to make statements like, well, the judge is going to see that I'm not a murderer. The judge is going to see that I'm not a rapist. The judge is going to see that I'm not some kind of a sex offender. I'm not a repeat offender. I've never been in trouble before. And the judge is going to see that. The problem is you're taking yourself out of the reality of the element of this happens all of the time. The judge sentences people to prison every single day, specifically focusing on nonviolent first-time offenders. So this isn't like the first time the judge saw somebody that's a good person come through his courtroom. The judge already knows you're not a bad person. The judge knows you made a mistake, but the judge has guidelines, the judge has a job to do, and the judge has heard every song and dance and every sob story a million times. So many people want to really focus on they have children that are sick, or they have elderly parents, or they've been working, they've been out on pretrial this whole time, they haven't had any dirty UAs, no run-ins with the law, they've been doing everything they're supposed to be, reporting on time, and they think that's enough. But what they don't realize is everybody in your situation is doing that. That's the bare minimum. You don't get a sticker, a pat on the back, a cookie for doing what's expected of you. If you're looking to get exceptional outcomes and exceptional results, then you have to go above and beyond and do more than what everybody else in your same class is doing. And your class consists of white-collar individuals, first-time nonviolent offenders, all the way to nonviolent drug offenders. You guys are in the same group. There is no difference. What are you going to do after prison? Dealing with the shame of talking to your friends. A lot of people don't want to admit guilt. They don't want to take their plea because they're afraid of what their neighbors and their friends are going to think or how this is going to impact their career. Now, that is slightly where there probably is a bit of a difference when you're dealing with like a celebrity or a high-profile case, because once they admit guilt, it's going to be all over TV, it's going to be on the news, it's going to be in every paper, it's going to be talked about for a period of time. You may lose your job, all kinds of things negative could be impacted from that. But at the same time, if you're really methodically thinking this through and you realize that this is going to end in a plea deal at some point, or you're going to go to trial, the longer you wait to accept a plea deal, or at least accept responsibility and make it known that you're accepting responsibility, the longer that you wait, the less they may need you. The more effort you make them put in to push you into taking a plea, you might pay for it down the road, where 5K1s may not be an option for you, your acceptance may not be an option for you. Everybody in this situation, I can promise you right now, everybody involved in this specific situation with the college admission scandal, they're all willing to cooperate to an extent. Nobody wants to go to prison. They're not dealing with gangsters or murderers that are going to show up their house and kill their family if they cooperate. You know, there's a big difference in this type of a situation versus, you know, somebody that's out there in the mafia or the mob or running around, you know, gang violence. When they tell on somebody, the consequences aren't just that person getting in trouble. The consequences is you might be in risk for your safety, and your family might be in risk for their safety by you cooperating. So I understand why somebody in that situation wouldn't cooperate. I'm not telling you to go cooperate. I'm telling you that if you're a first-time nonviolent offender, white-collar criminal, blue-collar criminal, your only escape, unless you're 100% innocent and you can prove it. But don't try to write the narrative to your benefit, trying to say, well, I didn't know, or the consultant tricked me. At the end of the day, you knew your kid's not getting on the swim team. You knew your child didn't have the academic scores. You knew that money was being paid for your kid to pass testing, that there's somebody else was going to be taking the test. So there were red flags, but you wanted your child in this school so bad that you turned a blind eye. I'm not judging you. I've made millions of mistakes just like that, and will continue to make mistakes just like that. But the fact is own it. If you own it right now, there's a good chance that you can truly minimize the casualty of what you're going to be facing. That's your only way out of this, is owning it. And then what you're doing once you own it. Once you've admitted that you've done it, you're taking responsibility. Now what you can do. One of our clients that you guys are going to meet real soon, he's been a client for about 2 years. When he first came to me, and I'll tell you his first name. His name is Chris. When Chris first came to me, Chris was the most neurotic, freaked out individual I have ever met to this day. Literally called me every single day for weeks and weeks and weeks, because he was so nervous about his case and he was so terrified about going to prison and didn't know how to tell his kids and didn't know what to do with his life. Well, he decided finally to hire us. And then once he hired us, he kind of stuck his head in the sand and he's like, all right, I hired you guys. Now, how are you going to fix this? So we're going through some of the motions and explaining to him what we'd like to see him do. But then every day he would call and I would ask him, well, what did you do yesterday that we spoke about? How much progress have you made? And there wasn't any. And to this day, what stuck in his mind, out of everything that I've ever said to him, out of every profound statement that I've made to Chris, what Chris said stuck out to him was, I lost my temper. I'm not going to lie. I got a little frustrated because the guy called me every single day and wasn't making any progress. And I said, Chris, get your fucking head out of your ass and stop pretending like you're the victim. Every time you call me, you're so down and you're so frustrated and you're so upset. There's nothing that I can do to make you not deal with anxiety. I'm giving you tools. I'm giving you techniques to use. I'm giving you ideas and you're not using them, but yet you're calling me frustrated and upset because of your situation. From that moment forward, from that phone call, Chris started making improvement. He started doing the right thing. And Chris actually engaged himself with this company. As you can see the poster behind me, drugfreeworld.org. This is an educator's guide. Chris got involved doing community service with this company, which is a nationwide organization. And he got involved with this company because his crime specifically was a drug crime. And he was going out and speaking to kids at schools about the impact of drugs and how, because he allowed drugs to impact his life, which led him to make some poor decisions, or now leading him to potentially go to prison, he started going around to schools and doing volunteer work through this company because they supplied him with all of the material. So it made it easy to go out and really talk to kids about his situation, but using Drug Free World and their content to kind of give him a facilitator's guide as to what to do next. Well, Chris has become so involved with Drug Free World that he's now a facilitator of the program. He sets up chapters in other states. So any of you that are struggling right now and you're not sure what you should be doing with community service, give me a call, because I've also just recently become certified with Drug Free World to be able to work with my clients on what you guys can be doing to get engaged, because A, this does count towards community service for one, so you will get credit for that. But B, it's going to allow you to start creating new habits. And you're going to see when you start going into schools and you start speaking on the aspect of whether it's how the impact of drugs have affected your life or just the impact of making poor choices. Poor choices, when you go into a school and you start explaining to children, whether it's elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, colleges, universities, at any level, you can go speak to regular people that look just like you, that sound just like you, that don't think they're ever going to be in a situation where they're going to go to federal prison. 99% of the people that I speak to never thought in a million years prison was going to be in their future. Most of you are not career criminals. You weren't out there running the streets, slinging drugs. Most of you were average, hardworking class to middle class to upper class, working, and you allowed yourself to make some poor judgment calls to where now, You're involved in a federal indictment and you feel like, how did this happen? And you want to believe that the universe is going to center this and fix it. And it doesn't work that way. And that's what you're starting to learn. So if you do want to start combating this, you have to start doing that with building a brand new lifestyle, reinventing yourself, doing things for the right reason. Intentions don't really have anything. Intentions have no room in your life right now because your intentions were not to end up in prison. Just like when I originally enrolled in RDAP, my intentions were not to care about the program. My intentions weren't, this program's going to be so good for me. My intentions were, let me get this year off so I can get out of here as soon as possible. But what happened is going through the motion of RDAP and the program, the guides, the DTSs, the drug treatment specialists, the whole curriculum of the program really started to change who I was, because I involved myself in it for such a long period of time that my main reason for wanting to take the program, which originally was to get the year off, that changed. And that became a secondary reason for the program. That became an awesome perk of taking the program. But really what happened is I saw how I was changing my mindset. And I started understanding that, oh my God, it's really this easy. If I just do things for the right reason, other things start to fall in place for me. Life can be better after prison. When you have individuals that are in, right now we have a doctor, a neurosurgeon that was sentenced today. 14 months, I think he got 14 months. He was looking at a lot more time originally. He's got concerns. What is he going to do after prison? Now that he has a conviction, what is he going to be able to do? And partly with working with us is helping you rebuild your career, finding options for you, giving you the confidence to realize that you're going to figure it out. Most of you are very, very smart. Most of you have the ability to problem solve. The problem is you're thinking so far ahead and you've got blinders on and you're creating these roadblocks and this awfulization, and you become your own worst enemy going, nobody's ever going to hire me. How many of you have found yourself at like 3 a.m, you wake up and just, I call it the witching hour, and anxiety just attacks you from the inside out and there's no escaping it. You get up, you go get a drink of water, you might go eat something, you go stand outside, and no matter what you do, you just can't wait for daylight to come, because as soon as daylight comes, you get involved with your day, you start focusing, you make some phone calls, whatever it is, it starts to enhance your mood. So you have to find techniques to deal with what you're doing to sleep better. A lot of you are going through so much stress right now and you're probably eating like garbage. Eating a horrible diet right now, and I don't mean to get all nutritional on you guys, but eating horrible when you're already in a very tough point of your life is going to create extra stress and extra drama, because you're not going to be sleeping well. Your mind's not going to be clear because it's going to be full of garbage, full of sugars and carbs, and it's not going to allow you to process what you're really doing. So if you're really trying to better your situation, guys, it all comes with making better choices. Throughout your entire, whatever your life consists of right now, you should be evolving your level of choice making, decision making, to a whole new level and looking at everything you're doing, focusing on consequences. People say, what should I do and what shouldn't I do? I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. At the end of the day, you have to really play through consequences and understand what the consequences could be of an action. And if you're willing to live with the worst case scenario consequence, then maybe it's a good idea for you. If you want to go rob a bank and you run all of the consequences through your mind of how it's going to ruin your family, how you could end up going to prison, how you could end up getting shot, and you run all those consequences through your mind and you still think it's a good idea, then I'm not going to tell you not to rob the bank. You've thought it through. The problem is most of us don't think through the consequences. And then when we face the consequences, we're like, no, I don't want to face this music. So guys, it is so important to take responsibility for what you have done. There's plenty of groups out there that talk about how overcrowded the prison system is, how we lock up too many people, how minimum mandatories are ridiculous. All of that is completely true, but we don't need another song for that. There's plenty of people out there doing that. A lot of the blowback that I receive is because I'm not going to blame your situation on the prison system or the shitty laws that might be in place, because there's plenty of people that have never seen the inside of a cop car, don't know what handcuffs feel like, don't even know where the police station is. It's because they truly think about consequences. And we all know those people, and you're like, man, you're such a worrywart. You're not going to get in trouble. Don't worry about it. It's okay to speed once in a while. It's okay to have 1 or 2 drinks and get in the car. There are people that will justify anything and everything. And once you start making these little justifications, before you know it, it really does become rational for you. So all of these irrational thoughts and processes that other people see as completely irrational, you and me have found a way to rationalize it to where we no longer even see it as a minor crime. And once you start crossing that threshold, it gets easier and easier to do other things. Now maybe you're cheating on your taxes. You're not reporting your taxes. You don't hear too many people going to prison for not paying their taxes. It's for not reporting. It's when you try to hide your money. For an example, let's say you had a great year and you made $500,000, but a lot of that money was used to pay bills, or you really didn't understand how to pay all these bills and you blew a lot of it, and the end of the year comes and you owe whatever you owe in taxes, but you don't have the money. So you freak out and you go, well, I'm going to try to hide some of this money and say I made less than I really made. That's where you make the mistake. If you just tell them what you actually make and write off whatever it is you're legitimately allowed to write off, put yourself on a payment plan, as long as you gave them the actual numbers and you're showing intent to make these payments, you're not, the IRS isn't coming after you. You're not going to go to prison for that. It's the same thing in most of these situations. People don't go to prison by mistake. They go to prison because they're looking for shortcuts. They're doing things that they don't need to do. They want to compare themselves to their neighbors. They want to look and smell like everybody else that's got all of this money and houses and cars. Do you. Stay in your lane. Quit trying to be like everybody else. Try to be the best you that you can be. And when you do that, you stop focusing on everybody else. I'm never going to be the biggest prison consultant out there. I'm never going to charge somebody 20, 30 grand for consulting services. Now, if you're flying me out and you want me to come meet you and we're doing stuff like that, of course, you're paying extra for something of that nature. But for the average person that we're going to deal with, whether you're making millions of dollars a year or you're making hundreds of thousands or you're making tens of thousands, I'm not going to decide what we're charging you based on that. It's going to be based on the workload that we put into it. As we expand our company and we hire additional people, the cost of doing business goes up, yes, but it's always going to be affordable for anybody that wants to take advantage of the service, regardless of their financial situation. Now, if you don't see the value, or you're not willing to make those choices, or you can't take accountability and you're not willing to be responsible for what you did, and you want to get stuck and be the victim and stay the victim and talk about how unfair this is, then yeah, we may not be for you. If you're going to call me from prison from a cell phone, we're not going to be the consultant for you. We're not here to help you beat the system. We're here to help you identify what you can do, what can work to your benefit, and how you can create the best possible outcome, serving the least amount of time, if not probation. Now, I'm going to check some comments now, guys. What's going on? Oh, Michael Sean Riley. What's going on, my man? Daniel Kurz, you're absolutely right. $25 million fraud. That's the amount. Mike Smith, what's going on? Mike Smith is another awesome client of ours. Oh, there's CJ. CJ's in the room. So, really, guys, it is frustrating to see how some people will abuse the powers that they have. And you would think anybody that's been to prison would know better and realize how stressful it was for them. I don't know how you can consciously know that there's people out there that need your help. And I understand if somebody's not willing to pay you anything. We for a while we did the sponsorship program. I don't know how many of you guys remember this, but we had a sponsorship program for a while that we had individuals, and it was actually a couple of our wealthier clients that really believed in what we were doing, and they were paying for a lot of you that couldn't afford it. So we would have individuals that call us up and like, hey, I really want your help, but I don't have a job. I've got 12 kids at home. I'm about to be homeless, but I really need your help because just like everybody else, I'm also thinking about committing suicide. And we wanted to be able to help, So we had sponsors that were actually donating money for us to be able to bring these people into the program. The problem is when we were helping these people, because they had nothing invested into it, they were not doing any of the work required. They weren't working on their narratives. They weren't working on their character reference letters. They weren't getting back to us when it came to preparing for the PSR. They weren't submitting any of the information. They weren't sticking to their schedule because they had nothing to lose. So we had to stop doing that because there's no point in one of our sponsors giving us donations to use for individuals that are not going to follow through with the program and do what's necessary. Then it just ends up us getting money from donors and we're not able to do anything with it. So we have to end up, finding other ways to spend this money, whether it be people that are in prison system. We just, over the last couple of weeks, we spent probably $500 or $600 on commissary items for individuals that are in prison, that are going without, that are struggling. We don't want to make this where it's unattainable for the average working class person. At the same time, those of you that are very wealthy white collar individuals, you should not think just because we're not catering to you that we're not the best suited for you. You got to remember, most of you that are very wealthy and very well off are not accustomed to not getting things done by paying additional money. And there are consultants out there that have identified this. There are consultants out there that vet people. One of the first questions is, what do you do for work? Let me see a copy of your PSR. You send somebody your PSR, your financials are on that PSR. When you send somebody your pre-sentence report, if you go down towards the bottom of your pre-sentence report, the last few pages of it, it will usually list your assets. And this is something that consultants will look at and go, okay, this person's making very good money, still has a lot of money, based on the fact that I could help them shave off 12, 18 months, 24 months, qualifying them, helping them with the First Step, Second Chance Act. Not that you're doing anything illegal. You're still giving them all of the same help you'd be giving anybody else, but you're raising your price because they can afford more. That's where this problem gets broken, and the sense of entitlement and the whole, I hate to say it, guys, but when we talk about, people that take advantage of the system, they do things that they shouldn't be doing. There's many people right now that I guarantee are not sleeping too well at night because they know their pricing is all over the board. I've had clients send me invoices where other consultants have charged them $20,000, $25,000. So when you have a sense of entitlement and you feel like you deserve that much money, I just can't imagine what these consultants are doing that are charging that much money. I can't imagine that they're doing anything different than what we're doing. We have a licensed life coach that is no joke. A lot of you have dealt with Jenny directly. Not only is Jenny a life coach, but she does the whole mindset coaching. She works with you on your personal narratives, helping you craft them. We're not going to write your letter for you. A lot of people want us to write their letter. Well, can't you just write it and I'll put my name on it? Absolutely not. Because you're not putting any work. How are you supposed to get any of the benefit? How are you supposed to start making better choices and creating better habits if you're just not wanting to lift a finger? Well, what we will do is give you a list of questions that we want you to answer, and each one of those answers should be in the form of a paragraph. And based on your answers, we can now go in and help you start crafting your narrative. At the same time, we don't want you to turn in this horrible narrative that you didn't put any, just because you put work into it. It's going to be your words. It's going to be your story. But our job is to help you understand the audience that's going to be reviewing this. That's the whole objective here, is to create that opportunity for you to appear to be somebody that is changed. And change doesn't happen overnight. Process is not an immediate event. It's a long-term road, guys. It's nothing that you do today is going to pay off later today. The efforts that you're putting in right now are going to give you the fruits of your labor down the road at sentencing when it matters. So you're either going to hire somebody that you feel like you relate to because they sound like you and they talk like you and they say all the right things, and they can tell you where they're playing golf over the weekend or what country club they're going to go to. Or you can deal with somebody that knows exactly what these judges are not used to seeing and what you can do to make yourself uncomfortable. If you're not uncomfortable with whoever you're working with, if you feel like you're working with your prison consultant and you feel like, oh, he's my buddy, everything's cool, he's got this, and you're not feeling uncomfortable, you're probably not making progress. You should feel very fish out of water. You should be out of your comfort zone 100% in doing things that are challenging you. If you're not taking advantage, if you hire a prison consultant and you're not taking advantage of all of the services that are available to increase your possible outcome, you're going to get just that. You're going to get the amount of work that you put into it is going to pay off the day of sentencing. That's like when somebody finds out about consulting, 6 weeks before sentencing. There's obviously very, very limited work that can be done. A lot of times people will call us up and say, hey, I get sentenced in a couple of weeks. Can you help me with my letters? Of course we can. Is there a discount because I don't need the other things? Absolutely not. Just because there's less to do, there's also a lot more to do at the same time, because we realize we haven't had as much time to work with you to really create that new mindset. So there's a lot more immediate work that needs to go into you right now because everything is in a rush. You might be asking for extensions, filing motions to get an extension. A lot of times clients aren't comfortable with their attorney asking for the motion because they feel like their attorney is so disconnected from the whole situation that they don't want to use their attorney. They want their attorney to file it, but they want somebody that's really going to understand the theme of what needs to be put into this. That's really going to pay attention to what it is that you're going through. And that's one of the other things, especially now with the First Step Act, we know that it's still 4 or 5 months out. Some of you are going to be self-surrendering in the next 30, 60, 90 days. You really should be trying to find out if you can get an extension to extend your surrender. This way, by the time you go into prison, it'll be that much closer to the First Step Act being in place, where a lot of these programming credits that can give you the 10 to 15 days per month of pre-release credits will be in place, and you'll get benefit from it from the time you start, because that stuff's not going to be retroactive, guys. First Step Act, it's going to be retroactive on your good time, but programming, the credits towards pre-release, that's not going to be retroactive. From the time that starts, it's going to be going forward. So if you go into prison now and you've been there 4 or 5 months, you're not going to get credit for those 4 or 5 months towards potential pre-release credit. So why not ask the judge for an extension? Many of you have things coming up that are valid reasons to ask for an extension. There's always the chance that the judge is going to say no, but there's no harm in asking for one, especially if you put hard work and effort into the motion in requesting this or into the letter that's going to be requesting this. We try to cover every single aspect of what somebody may need. And the big takeaway from all of this, guys, is very wealthy, white-collar individuals have the same fears, the same anxieties. They're going to deal with the same stresses. They're going to go to the same prisons as every average nonviolent first-time offender. When you get to prison, most of the individuals that you'll meet in a prison camp, most of them are not white-collar individuals. Most of them are nonviolent drug offenders. The average inmate in prison in a camp is going to be there for a nonviolent charge. It's going to be a drug offense charge. Then there's going to be your white-collar criminals, offenders. So you really got to do your homework. Make sure that you're picking the person that's best suited for you. Make sure you're not getting sold a bill of goods, and just do your homework, guys. That's what we've been about since day one. You guys all remember when we started this channel, it was never designed to become a consulting company. That kind of happened by default. Once we realized the need for it and all of the concerning questions that many of you had. And what I realized, the one thing a lot of you had in common was the reason why you haven't hired other prison consultants is you couldn't afford the outrageous fees that they were charging. 10 grand to 20 grand, 30 grand. That's just too much money for the average person. Now people think, well, am I getting more by paying more? You would think in most parts of, or in most situations, you get what you pay for. And there are some situations where other consultants don't do anything out there. There's another one that I feel like is really going to be under the gun here soon. And I don't want to say their name yet because we might do a video on them. But we see consultants doing some very, very, very shady, unethical practices. We had a client that right before she self-surrendered, she hired another prison consultant before us. And that happens all the time. I would say almost half of our clients have hired other prison consultants before hiring us, and they didn't get the services that they paid for. There's a difference in not getting the services that you paid for and having realistic expectations. Their expectations were not met at all. They don't pick up the phones. They don't answer the phones. They're not doing any of the work. and they stopped making payments to this consulting agency. The day before they self-surrendered, they got an email from the consultant stating that if they didn't receive payment, that this consultant was going to file paperwork to the court that was going to put a detainer on them, that was going to prevent them from going to a camp, prevent them from getting into RDAP, and prevent them from going to the halfway house. First off, bullshit, can't do that. But the fact that they sent this, the client didn't know. Thank God the client had hired us, and she literally called me crying thinking this was true. And I had to calm her down, then explain to her that this not only wasn't not true, the two have nothing to do with each other. Now, I called the prison consultant and asked them if they did this, and of course they said no. And then I forwarded them the email that she had sent me. I saw the email that they sent the client, and boy, they backtracked. They said it was a mistake, that they weren't going to send anything. These are the kind of things that will create indictments. These are the kind of things that hurt the industry. And you guys, I don't care who you are, you made a mistake. You deserve the same help that anybody else. Just because you made a mistake, you're not in this alone. Your kids don't know what to do. You're freaking out. You shouldn't have to be considering things like suicide and going on the run, or fearing that you're going to go to prison for the rest of your life, or thinking that it's like what you see on TV where there's gang violence, rapes, beatings, extortion. That does exist in the higher level security prisons. But again, most of you are not going to that level of a security prison. Most of you are camp, low, maybe medium, but most of you are camp or low status. And once you can comprehend that and what that means, you're not going to have this unrealistic fear of prison itself. Once you can get over the fear of prison, and it's never going to completely get over till you get there, but once you can tone it down, it allows you to start focusing on what actually matters and what you can do to make a difference, guys. And that's what we want to do. We want to break down your fear. We want to help you manage and maintain your anxiety. We want to give you tools and techniques and tactics on what you can do to create the best possible outcome. We want you to work with us in our team, Jenny, CJ, Angela. Everybody that works here with us, guys, has passion, wants to see you get the best possible outcome. And that doesn't happen unless you're willing to put in hard work and effort. Nobody can work harder than what you're willing to put in. Simple as that. All right, that's all I got. Dan, I will definitely let Shelly know that you said hi. Appreciate that. Hope you guys all have an amazing evening. And I'll probably be talking to you guys from Indiana while I'm getting ready to go do my best friend's wedding. I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting. People helping people, communities method, one day at a time. Don't forget to subscribe, share, give me a thumbs up if you haven't already done so. I do, as I say always, I love every single one of you guys. You've made this an amazing journey for me. If there's anything I can do to give you a hand, all you got to do is pick up the phone, 509-434-6695. And don't forget to text the word YouTube to 76626. See you guys in a couple days. I'm out of here. Have a great evening, everybody. Peace.